life, strife or strive, survive or thrive, living narrow or living wide, sneak around in the shadows or never hide, ride in the passenger seat or drive, die or stay alive.
Webinar today with Dr. Ann Baldwin, who is a professor of physiology at the University of Arizona. I've known Ann for quite some time now, and her interests are in understanding stress and especially how people can reduce stress. And Ann is also a certified heart math trainer and a horse owner. In fact, she was just telling me that she went out riding this morning before doing this webinar. So Ann, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I've always been interested in horses, and in fact I started riding when I was 6 years old, and I have my own horse, and I also volunteer at Therapeutic Riding of Tucson, or TROT. But you don't have to ride horses to be able to benefit from them. This slide here, this photo was taken in Sebastopol in Equatorial, and that's when I was working with Lisa Waters on the latest phase of our research to see how mindful grooming affected horses and humans as they interact. And you can see this is a beautiful picture of the horse interacting with the human, and the human's not riding, the human's just grooming the horse. So working on the ground with horses in the presence of someone, an equine professional who's trained in promoting these horse-human interactions. The name for this is called equine facilitated learning. Equine facilitated learning, it's done with an equine professional to help facilitate personal growth and to develop life skills with the horses, with the help of the horses. And so some people have various issues such as anxiety or fear, and working with horses in this way can help them recognize their issues and then be able to come to terms with them and even reduce them and get through these issues just by interacting with the horses. But you don't need major issues to benefit from this kind of work. Even just being with horses can help you attain a balanced, harmonious state of being. And horses also react to human body language, and they can read the client's nonverbal communication and respond to it. And an example of that is when a colleague of mine told me that she was visiting a barn where she taught the previous year, and she was standing looking over a fence, and she was sad because she was looking into a field where a horse had been that she'd worked with before, and that horse had died during the year. And there was another horse in the field, and as she stood there looking over the fence, this other horse came up to her and put its head on her shoulder and stayed with her. So it really, things like that really make you wonder, a horse is really tuning in to what we're feeling and responding. But we don't know very much about that. What's happening physiologically, psychologically, what's happening to the horses and the humans? So those are the kind of questions that we want to answer. So what's the state of the field right now? Well, most of the information that we receive is anecdotal. And so we really want some scientific measures reflecting physical and mental health on the horses and humans as they do equine facilitated learning, because that will help us see what kind of people in what situation. So I'm going to tell you about two phases of our research. We were looking at two kinds of equine facilitated exercises. The first one, sending appreciation to the horse. And you can see someone there doing that. And then the second one I'm going to talk about is con su permiso, which means with your permission. And so we wanted to see how these exercises affected heart rate variability, and I'll talk about that later, heart rate variability of the horse and the humans. So heart rate variability is how the heart rate changes with time. And it's due to a complementary relationship between sympathetic, that's like an accelerator in the heart, the sympathetic nerves that speed up the heart, and parasympathetic, which is like a brake and slow down the heart. And if we have a close interaction between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branches of the autonomic nervous system, so they're talking together all the time, that leads to high heart rate variability. So sometimes the heart rate will go up when sympathetic stimulated, and then it will come down again when parasympathetic stimulated. And that's very healthy because it means that the heart can adjust very quickly to the situation. And if you have continuous predominance of one or other of these branches, which could be caused by stress or anxiety or PTSD or anger, this reduces the heart rate variability. So it means the heart rate isn't changing very much. And that's not healthy because you're kind of stuck and your heart can't adjust to changing circumstances. So this is a graph of heart rate variability, how the heart rate changes with time. That's the blue line there. And you can see it's not just a horizontal line. The heart rate is going up and down and then up again. And underneath you can see an EKG, and each one of those spikes is a contraction of the heart ventricle. Each one of those spikes represents a beat. And you can see the beats, the spikes are not evenly spaced. And you can see when the heart rate is going down, those spikes are far away from each other. And when the heart rate is going up, you can see that they are closer together. So that's really what we're talking about when we talk about heart rate variability. So this again is an EKG, and you can see that the term of the distance between those spikes is IBI, or interbeat interval. And when we measure heart rate variability, that's what we're measuring. We're measuring the time interval between successive beats. And we have software which will automatically analyze this data and give us various parameters. So one of them is called SDRR, standard deviation of interbeat interval, how much variation there is in that distance between those spikes. And all you need to know is that reflects the magnitude of heart rate variability. So if someone says they have a high heart rate variability, it means that there's a lot of variation in the distance between those spikes. So heart rate sometimes high, sometimes low. And remember, that's good. It means the heart's adjusting. And then RMSSD, which is it's a complicated term, but all you need to know is that it reflects parasympathetic activation or relaxation. So if you have a high RMSSD, it means you're in a pretty relaxed state. And here you can see we're talking about coherence, because it's not just how much the heart rate varies with time, but the pattern with which it varies. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this diagram here from HeartMath. And you can see in the top panel, this is how the heart rate changes when someone's feeling frustrated. And you can see there's not really much of a pattern to it. It's sort of random. Whereas underneath, you can see this is the heart rate variability of someone who is consciously feeling appreciation. And you can see there's this nice wave, sine wave type pattern here going on that represents coherence. And that means that the heart rate is going up as you breathe in, down as you breathe out in this nice pattern. So we have a good synchronization between the respiration and the heart rate variability. And also other systems in the body are synchronized as well, like the brain waves. So if you're coherent, it means that all your systems are working together to benefit you both physiologically and psychologically. And even when you're coherent, you can even think more clearly. If you're not coherent, like if you're feeling frustrated or angry, and I'm sure you've all felt this, you can't think very clearly, and it's not a good time to make important decisions. So next slide.
Yeah, and before I go to the next slide, if I could
Yeah.
just make a comment here that I
Yeah.
find helpful for some people to understand this variability stuff we're talking about. And most of us are probably old enough that are listening to remember what Morse code is. And if we think of Morse code, we know how we can encode information or spell out a word just by varying the intervals between dots or dashes, you know, but the time between when you hit the telegraph key. So you can spell out words and sentences, even a whole book if you wanted to, and it had the patience to do that. So it's a way of understanding physiology in that our nervous system, even the neurons in our brain, the way it moves information from one place to another is by encoding the words, if you will, the language of the brain and nervous system in the intervals between things. It's the way our neurons work as well. So this is really, these patterns we're seeing are quite literally the language of the heart and brain talking to each other. And when we're in that frustrated or incoherent state, you can think of the message you're getting kind of scrambled. And when we're in a positive state, like really feeling kindness, appreciation, compassion, the heart's beating out a very different message in those patterns of information that's going to our whole body. So I just find that I thought I'd add that in to help maybe people, some of the people understand what we're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is just a repeat of that. So high coherent heart rate variability is associated with good health. It means you've got a cardiovascular system that's flexible and efficient in meeting your needs. And we hypothesized that sending appreciation to the horse and con supermiso, the two exercises we wanted to investigate, would increase participants' heart rate variability and coherence. And if you look at the next slide here, you can see the protocol for sending appreciation to the horse. And this was a study that I did with Dr. Ellen Gerke. And this study was supported by the Institute of Heart Math and also by Equisatori through Lisa Walters. So you can see we've let the horse roll in the turnout first. And the reason for that is because we don't want to put the monitor on the horse and then let it go and roll in the dirt, because that's not very good for our equipment. And we learned that the hard way. So after the horse has rolled in the turnout, we attach the monitor to the horse to measure heart rate variability. And then the horse is it's put in an arena by itself, but on a lead. And then at the same time, the participant who is going to go with that horse sits quietly away from the horse so that they can't see the horse. So we have the horse and the participant. They're separated from each other. They can't see each other. And we record their heart rate variability for 10 minutes. And then we can get the horse and the human together and measure their heart rate variability. And then we can have the human sending appreciation to the horse. So the human is sitting on a chair in a small turnout. The horse is free to wander around. And then the person is directed to send appreciation to the horse as the heart rate variability is being recorded in both of them. So we also did other types of interactions, but I'm going to concentrate right now on sending appreciation. And you can see this shows heart rate variability of the horse and the human when they're apart and they can't see each other. And the human one is that blue tracing. So we have heart rate on the y-axis, on the vertical axis, and time in seconds on the horizontal axis. And this was for 5 minutes. And so you can see the human heart rate is going up and down, but there's not too much of a pattern to it there. And then interestingly, the horse's heart rate is also going up and down, but you can see more of a pattern to it. And in fact, we often saw that with horses in a relaxed state. We often saw this, these repetitive humps in their heart rate variability. And maybe it could be something similar to coherence in a human. So here we can see heart rate variability of a human as they're sending appreciation to the horse. And so that's known as heart lock-in in the heart math. And you can see that you have that nice sine wave in the human one, the blue one, and the horse is the pink one underneath, and you can also see some variability there. So we wanted to know if there were any similar frequencies going on in these two tracings. So you can see the blue one at the top, the human. There's this very repetitive pattern going on, so you can see there's a frequency there. And maybe there are some other frequencies contributing to that heart rate variability. And same with the horse. And here you can see, this is not the one that we were just looking at. This is another one, someone's heart rate variability. This, the red curve here, the red tracing, you can see a coherent signal, the sine wave type wave. And then on the top screen, the top panel, this is called the frequency domain. So there's software that can change the heart rate as a function of time, or how the heart rate changes with time, into what frequencies are going on in this pattern. And you can see at the top, there's a pink part on the left, a blue part in the middle, and a yellow part on the right. So the pink part, that is called very low frequency, and it's a particular range of frequencies. Then the blue part is called low frequency, and the yellow part is called high frequency. And I'll talk about what they represent in a minute. But I want you to notice that there's a lot of amplitude in that low frequency, in the blue. There's a big spike close to 0.1 hertz. And that is corresponding to that pattern, that coherent pattern that you're seeing down below, which is about 6 of those humps in a minute, which is about 0.1 hump in a second. And so you can see that if you see that 0.1 spike in the frequency, that corresponds to this coherence, or close to 0.1. So coherence seems to be increased as people send appreciation to the horse. And so here is another one. This is another person. You can see also there's some coherence in there in the top one, and the pink one below is the horse's heart rate. So we wanted to know what frequencies of oscillations are contributing to each of these curves? And secondly, and more excitingly, are there any matches in the frequencies between the horse and the human? And we had software to do that. And if we look at the next slide, we can see these two graphs represent the different frequencies that the software said were appearing in each of these, the horse and the human heart rate variability. So I want you to look on the right at the humans, and you'll see a spike, and it says 0.13. Well, that is close to 0.1, and that shows that that person was coherent. And you can see a little bit, if you go on the left, a little hump there, not very much, but a little hump with the horse at 0.13. But what I want you to look at is that big spike at 0.01 that you see both in the horse on the left and in the human on the right. Normally, when we just measure coherence in a human, if they're doing, say, the heart locking to them with themselves, we just see that 0.1 spike. We don't usually see that very low frequency, the 0.01. But when the person's with the horse, we see it in both of them. So it's something that seems to belong to the horse that is also appearing in the human heart rate variability. And you can see there's another one, 0.06 in the horse, also seeing in the human a little bit there at 0.06. And so we did 7 horse-human pairs in this pilot study. And so you can see the names of the human and the horse on the left, and then the human frequencies and the horse frequencies in their heart rate variabilities when they were both together and the human was sending appreciation to the horse. And the red numbers represent the coherent frequency in the human. So you can see 0.1, 0.104. That one wasn't quite coherent. Then the next one, 0.13, and then 0.11, 0.109. So most of the people were showing a coherent peak, but the green ones are the frequencies that we saw that were matching between the horse and the human. And you can see that actually 6 out of the 7 horse-human pairs showed matching frequencies. And the one that didn't show the matching frequencies, she was the owner of the barn, And she was actually kind of thinking about lots of other things that she had to do. So maybe it's not surprising that we didn't see with her these precise matching frequencies that we saw with the others. And they're all at the very low frequency range. Now this table shows horses and humans who had never been together. So this is kind of like a thought experiment. So I took data from humans and data from horses who had never met and just stuck them together as if they were together, but they weren't really. And you can see that there is not a single match in any of those pairs.
So, Ann,
so it really, yeah.
Well, this is a control then, if I understand this right, to show
That's
that
right, yes.
that's not random at all, that you have to be
It's not
matched.
random.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so there's another way also of looking to see if there's any correlation between the horse heart rate variability and the human heart rate variability by looking at how the heart rate changes with time. And that panel at the top, the blue line shows the heart rate variability of the human, and the pink is the heart rate variability of the horse. So what we want to know is when the pink one is going up, is the blue one going up? When the pink one's going down, is the blue one going down? And there's a mathematical procedure called cross-correlation that would tell us how correlated these signals are. When one does one, is the other thing doing the same thing at each little time point? And so we can do it just by analyzing the two curves as you see them, but we can also consider that there might be a time lag. So maybe the heart rate variability of the horse could be affecting the human or the other way around, but maybe there's a time lag. So we can shift one of those tracings by different times and then see if we can make it even more, have an even more higher correlation. And that's what we've done in the panel underneath. So the correlation will be from 0 to 1. And if it's anything that is just by chance, usually it doesn't go above 0.1. And you can see here, we have a correlation of close to 0.35. And that happened when we shifted the curves by 30 seconds. So actually, the horse was leading the human by about 30 seconds to get that very high correlation that was much greater than we would get by chance. This means that the horse's heart rate variability was affecting the humans, and there was a time lag of about 30 seconds. So you might think that maybe when someone is sending appreciation to the horse, that their heart might be affecting the horse's heart. But no, it seemed to be the other way around. It was the horse's heart that was affecting the human's heart. So we found that when people did heart lock-in, the 7 horse-human pairs, 4 of those pairs showed correlations that were significantly higher than we would expect by chance. And the horse led the human for all the 4 pairs. And when they were just sitting with the horse, not even concentrating on doing the lock-in, all of them showed correlations significantly higher than expected by chance. So even just being with the horse without consciously sending appreciation, although they may have been doing that subconsciously, that also showed very high correlations. And the horse in this case also led the human for most of the pairs. So remember, we hypothesized that sending appreciation to the horse would increase the participant's heart rate variability and coherence. And what we found was that when sending appreciation to the horse, coherence in the human was significantly increased, but actually the magnitude of the heart rate variability didn't change. It could be that these were all horse owners, all these people. They're around horses a lot of the time, and I think that their heart rate variability was pretty high to begin with. So that could be an explanation of why we didn't see an increase in the magnitude of the heart rate variability, but we saw a distinct change in the pattern, more coherence when they were doing this exercise with the horse. And almost all the horse-human pairs showed heart rate variability frequency matches. Very precise matches. and the majority showed a high correlation between the horse and the human in how the heart rate changed with time, with the horse leading the human. So that was very exciting, we thought, when we analyzed all the results and came up with that interesting finding. So we concluded that in most cases, the horse's state is influencing the humans more than the other way around. And we think that maybe coherence in the human may help sharing of heart rhythm information. But even just sitting quietly with the horse seems sufficient in some cases. And I'll tell you a little story here. So I was going to my barn to do an experiment there with the horses, and I was meeting a colleague there, and she had forgotten a key piece of equipment. And so I had to drive back home, get the equipment, come back, and I was driving through rush hour traffic. And I just measured my coherence just out of interest, and I was about 10% coherent, which is not very good. Then after we had worked with the horses for about an hour, I thought, oh, I'll just measure it again. And I wasn't doing heart lock-in, I wasn't sending appreciation, I just was measuring it. And I was 100% coherent. So it does seem that even just being in the presence of horses can put you into that state. So peacefully interacting with horses may move people to a heightened receptive state that could enhance nonverbal communication. And so we think that maybe if we're in a quiet, open state of mind, horses could be communicating with us through their heart field. And their hearts are much bigger than ours. So it's probable that their heart field is also much more intense and reaching out further distances, although I don't think that anyone has actually been able to measure the electromagnetic field generated by a horse's heart. So maybe when we're in this state, our bodies are like receivers or tuners or amplifiers, and we can take in physiological signals from the horse when we're in this quiet, balanced state. And it's very probable that these signals modify our feelings and behavior. And so Roland already mentioned I rode my horse this morning before I was doing the webinar, and I was a little bit nervous about doing this webinar. And after I'd ridden my horse, I felt so much more relaxed. So it's really pretty certain that these signals do modify our feelings. And so I'm going to move on now to Ponsu Pamiso, Rector and Ann Alden in Arizona.
All right, I think I'm on live now. Hello. That was just a public service. This is the Schumann Resonance. Whoa, hello. I'm trying to get the mic to work properly. Yeah, it seemed like it was very cute, interesting video that I'm like, oh my goodness. Before I clear it off my browser, generally speaking, either I'll post it online or on Facebook, on YouTube, I'll make a video of it. And then I save it and clear it off my browser. So that's what I call a browser dump. And that's what, I'm going to turn down the volume, I think. I'm still working with the new system, so if it peaks or something, it's just kind of me getting used to the system or whatever. Thank you. I turned it down. So what you're seeing here is the Schumann Resonance chart from Tomsk. All right, and I'm getting the chat up so I can see who's in. Gene. Hi, Gene Nugent. All right. So, and Bradley's here. I know that, or was anyway. I don't know if anyone fell asleep. It just reminded me of in fifth grade, coming into class one day and you're expecting your homework has to be in or something, and then it's a film strip, and like everyone gets the class off. It's like, all right, I just thought that was a very interesting I'm calling it a PSA, but I really kind of thought that was very cute about, but it's very real. It's showing you that the resonances, these things here, the coherent waves of, excuse me, the Schumann resonances, and specifically what I want to talk about is this resonance at 33 point. It's like 33.6, I think, 33.7 maybe. But if you look, you have to go down from this point here. The horizontals are the true resonances. And by that, what I mean is it's the, by equation, by Professor Schumann himself. Okay, his first name is Winifred. God bless him. Okay. So one of the things we're looking at is the modes. The modes make up the coloring on the spectrogram. You got to remember that. All right. So just woke up. Hi, Gene. I'm just sort of waking up myself. Sort of, kind of. It's 9, 10, 11. It's 9. It's 12. 12 midnight. 0009 hours Eastern Standard Time. So I'm just kind of going over some basic elements about the Schumann resonances, and one of these things is that the horizontals are what make up the harmonic resonances, which are the ringing of a bell. Professor Schumann, when he talked about this, he had himself talked about that the electric part is like the striking of the hammer of like a bell, and the pardon me for adjusting this during airtime. I try to adjust everything the best I can when I'm not on the air, but it's like, all right, as I'm doing this, things change and shift, and I can see myself, all right, and I see the glare of the screen on my glasses. All right, so thank you all for being here. Those of you who are here, I appreciate it, and commenting. Excuse me. So we're talking about the harmonics. These are the resonant harmonics of the Schumann, and so they're divided by 6.6 hertz, and that's important because it's the number system that has to do with the Sumerian. We're still based on the 6 times 6 times 10 system. Okay, and if you have to, you may not have to, but if you've ever thought about it, I have, and I asked that question. That's one of the reasons why and how it came to me, by my guides. I ask my spirit guides. I have a higher self, I have an overlord, an over soul, spirit guides, angelic guides, and so I asked the universe, please give me guidance on what things mean, and so that I can explain it to people. I need to understand it in very real terms, and so that's one of the things they gave to me is the two scales that you're seeing. One is the density, one is the dimension. And so what you're seeing here is the density scale. And I've been talking about this, and I need to kind of continue to keep talking about this to people so that it's more well understood. And to me, this is going back to the basics, but it's not a basic to everyone. And I have to remember there are new people here. Like in every show, there may be one new person here, and so I need to bring everyone up, everyone in the group, up to the basics, and hopefully I'm not boring people. Hopefully this is, coherent with what the lesson plan is, that I have kind of just briefly outlined in the description. Like that's the stated clear intention of where I'm hoping to go with this, is over there to the observations. But before that, there is, just because I like to give the observations of the current one. This is the current Schumann right here, right now. And so what are my observations on this? Before I go anywhere else, I want to give a daily. I don't do this daily, but, this is a quote unquote daily because it's based on, today. All right, so hold on a sec. I like using the this OBS capture system because I can mute it so you don't hear the cup clanking against my face, and such things. So, what about dogs and human hearts? Actually, I have on my channel, on my YouTube channel, and on Facebook, I think too, I have posted things about the human heart, and I have posted more things about the human heart than any of them. And as far as the dogs, I have not found. Hi, Sig. Always take something away each time. Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Sig Sauer. Almost like a shift at my work. Not quite 6 hours. It's 6 hour. That's the way they pronounce it around here. Ha ha. Nice like me. Wonderful to see you. Thank you. So uh, so that's the thing with dogs. I haven't found any study on it. As I am presented with stuff, this one actually, I have been sitting on it. It's been in the way back of my browser for a month easily. And so I assure you, had I found something about dog and human companionship, heart rate variability, HRV. Had I found something on dog heart, yeah, I would have. Yes, I don't know. You're asking the wrong person. Where are about the dogs? Could you tell me? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't found any. That's all I know. But the horse, and the relative to the human heart. The Heart Math Institute is the one that I've given other stuff from them. I've done videos from them. So if you go into my YouTube, I'm sure we are on YouTube, I'm pretty sure. You go into my history of videos, you'll find stuff there. Definitely. All right. So what we're talking about is getting back to the Schumann. All right, so this is 33 hertz. This is not 800. That 800 number that you ever saw was in Italy. 11,000 was in the middle of the earthquake zone. Okay, so for anyone new into this right here is the highest resonance that we have ever seen, I think, on this. This is 33.6 hertz. This is essentially uncharted territory here. I think there was a little bit happening the other day. You got to remember, these are magnetics. They are the way to think of the Schumann resonances. And I'm not sure. All right, so I have done that. The next, where I'm going with this is this, and so I'm not sure how much of this I talk about in this. Excuse me. in the subject, the subject of this video. And this is really actually a test video to see how well the setting worked. I changed a little setting over in the OBS capture. So, like, oh yeah, there's only way to test this is to run it live. So, yeah, all right. So we're seeing how well it's buffering. Susan. Hi, Susan Furman from Arizona. I nice to see you. Thank you for showing up. All right, so crackpot. So eventually, we're going to the crackpot theory of mind. All right, so how the Schumann resonances affect your DNA. That's kind of the ballpark stated clear intention of where we're going. Yet, I have to, while we're here every day, I give, and this is by request of a few people, you got to give the observations, the daily observations as well. So the notable thing is this here first, resonance here of how it's getting up here, this frequency. This is a frequency, but a resonant frequency. All right. You're looking down here. The F is frequency in wavelength. All right. So these are radio waves. Remember, radio waves are always classified by the meter scale. Centimeter, kilometer. They're broken up into tens. This is the temporal. Frequency is your tens kind of scale. That's the amplitude sets the kind of frequency. How do I say this? The frequency scale. Well, this is the dimension, the frequency dimension. These sort of set. Time is relative. It's not that time is not linear. Like time is the first linear, linear time is the first dimension. Everyone's clock, everyone's dimension of linear time is different. So, linear time exists in a phantom sense of the mind. Like how are we synchronizing this? So, a band, musicians operate by a time signature, 4/4. Right, this all here is, I think, 4/4. I've done a mode. You got to go. There's a video. I've done a video on the modes, and I explain this a lot better. Bradley probably can give you the link to the modes. Where he asked. It's certainly that's where he came in contact with, I think, his now favorite song to be playing on the bongos, Do It Properly. And that's why I had posted that, because I'm forever talking about the modes and how to understand reading this machine that's set up specifically to read the Schumann resonances. The machines in Italy are set up to read earthquakes. CIEN, which is the Central Italy Electromagnetic Network. We got those crazy ass peaks of 800 and 500. First it was 80, and then 110, which was all right. That's somewhat reasonable on these jammies. That's high over here, but like, all right, that's an amplitude peak of 110, and then we get 500, 800. I saw the through the roof reading at 11K, and it's not kilohertz in the Schumann resonance. That's a spike of amplitude that you have to look at in decibels. And the little chart next to it, you have to look at it on the decibel scale. Okay, it's only because they're only able to show you the I don't even know how to explain it. There's only that variable in there, and there's a frequency to it, but it's not a frequency. It's a velocity, which is a straight line. It's a dead line, okay? And this gets into the difference between the amplitude and the quality. Is it moving the difference between an amplitude and a frequency? So the straight line down is the amplitude, okay, which goes from This is, you have to also look at it from a little different sense here than most people kind of wrap their heads around. Okay. That this also represents, and I've also, if you go back in my videos, I also have talked about this, of this relating to the height of the atmosphere that it's pinging off of. I think that's a fair way to put it. That the waves, these dealios here, okay, this is the magnetic waves. Okay. As we all know, may or may not all know, there is this so-called unified theory, and what it is it is electricity, magnetism, and gravity are interrelated. Okay, so it's like a triangle, if you will. Okay, how do you get from the electric, which is a velocity, to the frequency? Okay, to change its shape, all right, it's in flux. The magnetics here are in flux, moving in current. This is your direction, north to south, east to west. And these ones here are the heaviest. These are the closest to Earth. Okay. Now, I haven't done this. We haven't talked about this. This is something that I don't really discuss. It's complicated. All right, hopefully one of you was up for this. But if you look at this, right, we talk about Tomsk, this one here, our favorite, our trusted source. 0 is up here, okay? 40, the ending of it is down there. And it doesn't make much sense of why this one should be different from all the rest of everyone else, okay? And you wonder, I wonder, you may not. No one wonders. No one ever no one studies about this. I do. Me alone. Me. Okay? Only I and Bradley and a few of you who I love. Okay. I'm the guy. It's my, my thingamabob that I look at this and I try and transcribe it into into human speak, into family. You all. Oh, hi, Wolf. Hey. And Sig, and Wolf, and Susan, and Bradley's still hanging out, of course. Thank you. All right. So, and anyone else I missed who's part of the family, thank you all for being here. All right. So, hold on. Liquid refreshment. All right. So, you picture. I have shown you before, okay, in Tomsk, again, Tomsk is our trusted source because they isolated away from earthquakes, okay? We're not laughing at any of the, I don't want to call them, use the C word because clowns are scary, but the people who talk about the conspiracy or talk about falsifying data of Tomsk, blah, 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 because I get some crazy-ass data from Italy. Okay, I think I made this clear. I'm making it clear again for anyone who's new here in the last, couple minutes, that the crazy data from the Italians of 500, 800 plus, anything, 500 plus, whatever, that was taken from Italy is done so in a place that they measure for the purpose of earthquake prediction. And specifically, just through a moderate amount of research, you find out they're having earthquakes over there. Okay, so it's really important to remember the local interferences above everything and first and foremost of what's happening. Okay, so the Schumann reports coming from Tomsk, coming from Russia, which is Tomsk State University, which is actually broke off from the Polytech Institute, just as right down the street, a kilometer down the street, as it were. They now keep in mind locally they have where they are, even though they try and isolate it and they measure just the Schumann resonances, they may be getting local interferences at 25 hertz AC, somewhere down here. The 25 hertz AC. There's an electric train line. Okay, so that's the frequency that electric train line runs on. So if you see that dotted line at 25, this goes back way back. With anyone from Wages who's familiar with this, with a coded line, is familiar with this discussion. For me, I've responded to that a few times in comments. I've made videos on it. That 25 hertz line is probably the AC, electric train line that goes across. Okay, so at 33 hertz. This is different because there's nothing I know of that operates at 33 hertz except an Ascension, the Ascension code. Like this is what that kind of word, the bing, you get the brass ring for that because it's like I can prove the 16. I can prove the what I call the dedicated frequency lines. Well, there's one at 25, one at 16.7. There's one lower ones, like, all right. So, I mean, these are things that I can kind of, check off because those are local interference. Here at this, there's nothing. This is a resonance, an exact dead-on resonance, spot-on resonance that shouldn't necessarily be there of a local, me, the guy, I'm the guy that knows. Like, all right, again, 25, I'll prove that. 17, I'll prove that. What else you got? Yeah, all right, but 31, like, yeah, you got something going on there. That's all right. So I talk about this may or may not be on topic or not or whatever, but I talk about these as being electromagnetic gravity waves, I'm kind of starting to call them, right? People who don't follow me and who follow others, whatever, they talk about the rising frequency of the Schumann resonances, and they use these big fat lines as saying the resonances, the frequency are rising. Yes, I think everyone here probably has heard that. The Schumann and a whole bunch of stuff, what I'm calling this ascension age rhetoric. Okay, no offense to it. Only kindness, peace, love, empathy, whatever, and if it resonates with you, it does. If not, then that's fine. You leave a comment, thumbs me up. Please leave a comment. Share your friends, just tell them this jerk, but get the word out. Like, all right, let them decide for themselves, Anyway, so that's part of what that is. You have to look at the image I kind of give. Why is this upside down? How is that? Like all the rest of them are, the spectrograms are with 0 down here in the bottom. Okay. They're not doing this intentionally. Let me just say this. This is one of those accident things. They came to me, and the only way to really look at this. Okay. This white is coming down to us from above, even though this is ground, right? The antennas are on the ground. They're not in the sky. I assure you that. They're grounded in the ground. What the hell is it? There we go. The induction, I've shown you. Anyone who's been around long enough, you've seen the induction coil. It's in a lot of them are in a clear plastic box and container that outstands the weather, and then the antenna it's grounded kind of into the earth. So I assure you, it's not the antennas are not, except for the satellites. Other than that, this is not a satellite. I'm assuring you of that. All right, so this white as though it's coming down to us from the sky. They're unintentionally showing you that this is the process of it coming down from the sky. This white, this is the amplitude, these peaks here, okay? So this right here is coming down to you from the sky. So if you were to invert, I can't even, show you here, but if you were to take this, and I have done this, I don't do it often because it's a pain in the ass, but way in some of the earlier videos I've done this, and I've flipped over this so you have a different sense of it and a different parameter, and explaining why I'm flipping it over and explaining in the different directions and all of that the amplitude is charged. The amplitude moves top down, high voltage to low voltage, being the earth ground potential. There's a DC circuit above us in the ionosphere that's usually insulated by the atmosphere. And what you're seeing is this blue, the dark blue, from the top to the bottom is like a spring. It's spring-loaded. That dark blue is the background at rest state, which it always wants to go back to that. So unless there's something in the atmosphere, it always wants to go back to that dark blue that you're seeing there. And so this sort of lighter indiglow, I call that, this field here, is a reaction to something, relative to chart. The chart's picking up some background kind of stuff, and this is all depending on, like an Etch-a-Sketch. One's vertical, one's horizontal. The amplitude is these peaks here. You see this white. It's a white mode only because this is a 23. That's a 13. That's a 6. That's a 9. So you're seeing this is a whiteout, like they call a whiteout. Where am I? A whiteout condition. That's only because the white is the tallest, biggest number. The amplitude is the tall. Excuse me, pardon me. Is the tallness, the heighthidity, the heighthidness, the tallitude. It's the amplitude. Oh, your dogs are having a fit. Probably a fight fit. Okay. All right. Susan, thank you. All right. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate that, Susan Furman. All right. So, thank you all for being here. I appreciate that. Every single one of you who is still able to follow along with what I'm saying and is who are still here. I appreciate that. All right, because this does get intense, and this I try and keep this as basic as I can, but this is not for the newcomer. It really kind of isn't. I try to make it easy and simple enough, and that's why I want to answer all the basic questions, because I need to be kind of pulled back in, so that again, so that everyone here in the boat here in this chat room here, the live stream, however long we're here, I'm here. I want to make sure that everyone is on board with the basics of the Schumann resonance. We can't move really significantly forward until we all kind of understand it, at least from my protocol, how I interpret that. And so that's why it's important to do these observations. I have been asked to do them because I really do explain what it is you're looking at. I also explain the one from Italy as well. I'm happy to, when that comes up, debunk people's myth on what it is they're looking at and any other Schumann charts that may happen to be proving some crazy spike. You better, if you're going to give me a proof of some anomaly, you better know what you're looking at, because I guarantee you I'll know what you're looking at, and I'll be able to tell you what you're looking at properly. So I find that actually really fun, having those conversations where I'm looking at what someone gave me as proof of, like what's happening all in other places. And it's like, no, that's not at all. Anyway, what that graph is showing, and it isn't, not only is it not proving what you're saying, it's proving what I'm saying. Thank you. You know, a new source. I bookmarked this. I live for this. Thank you all for being here. So this is what's coming down to us. All right. So I'm keep interrupting myself. Thank you all for being here. Back to the analogy. Back to the grind. So the white mode is the strongest because it's the tallest number here. Okay. So white is kind of blinding everything out. It just so happens that it's whoever picked out, or whatever committee picked out this color for mode 1 just happened to pick white. As I showed in the video about the modes, it's arbitrarily picked. Somehow they pick them, but it doesn't necessarily indicate that this white is the color of the light. I just want it known that for, just as an FYI. There's a lot of confusion on that when people talk about 5D gamma white light coming in or such things. Not to disillusion you that it isn't indeed coming in, okay? Whether or not it's coming in is not the point of this not being representative of it, okay? And if you don't believe that, if you don't argue with me, I would like you to debate me with that in the comments or wherever, that this is somehow, because again, I'm pointing out here, this chart here, and this right here, that's what this is. That's the spectrogram here is made up of the varying degrees of what I would call temperature or flavor of the signal that's coming in both the electric and the magnetic wavelengths, okay? You picture, again, getting back to this, you picture this white coming down here, all right? These stalagmites or stalactites, whatever. The ones that hang down, all right, in the cave. All right, these are coming down. Ding, 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 ding. These are what are hitting you down here. All right, this is you or me here on the actual ground itself. Okay, if you follow me and you're following along with this, the green of both is you and me standing here. The 0. It starts at 0 down here. Okay, now. That's just the green. You see how the green and the green matches itself up? Okay? This is the amplitude of the green. This is the quality of the green. This is mode 4. The green is mode 4. Okay? And as you look up, you see the resonances, the harmonic, the Schumann harmonic, Schumann Resonance Harmonics here is mostly that green. Okay? And this is what you're seeing here. The spikes are there and there spike. That's amplitude. But you're noticing, me, you and me, here, all of us, look, see these spikes? What are they married to? Requited. Okay? When you look at this, anyone who's been with me around a while knows that this is how I interpret the Schumann Resonance Harmonics. This is why I put my name out there first. This is why it's an apostrophe S at the end of my name. This is why it's Schumann Resonance Harmonics. Because there's a lot more to it than this really fun tartan. I think Bradley uses that phrase. The tartan. The plaid. The tartan. If you know what that is, it's a plaid, a weave. The weft and the weave. And we talked about this last night. Me and Alex. I'm pretty sure it was last night. That the amplitude, the electric spike is instantaneous. It's now. It is particles. It is people as particles. An individual. It's a immediate spike. It is its own thing. It's a plasma. It's not coherent. It is a particle, right? Light can be that way if you look at it. Or there is the always ever present light as a wave, right? If you see the lower end of the spectrum, this here, there, then, right? These two guys here, this is the lower end of the spectrum. This, you see the number I'm looking at, 31, the scale here, and this is a tall, not tall, this is quality. Quality is not tall. This is a wide wave, you know, but it doesn't have the height like a mast of a ship. That's amplitude. Okay, so there is a height of the wave. It bounces though. Ba-bang, ba-bang, ba-bang. This is bouncing off of the top layer of the ionosphere. I mean, this is bouncing, this one here, 31, I'm pretty sure the scale is 31 kilometers, you know, so it's bouncing up to the 31, that's essentially, that's, well, that's where it's pegged at. It pegs that. It may actually be more than that, but the meter is showing, this is the quality, this is the Tesla, pico Tesla, okay? So I called this frequency, the wavelength 31, that's 26 kilometers, that's 26, that's the height, this is the wavelength. All right, sorry, may have confused you because I'm a little confused and I said the wrong thing. All right, so this is the picotesla. But this is 31, is as high as this ever gets. It's generally capped off at 31. That number is high. This is the magnetics. Again, this is magnetics. This is quality. And what's it married to? What's it requited to? Okay, see this. It's generally speaking, it's an electromagnetic wave. Okay, and what we're talking about is, thank you, Bradley. I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad someone is here getting something. You know, this is a review, and I realize some of this may be old hat to people, but there's maybe someone new here. And, you know, I have a lot of complicated shit I can talk about the Schumann, but I really want to make sure that people understand what the chart here is that they're looking at. I really, you know, before any of the complicated stuff that I like talking about, I got to make sure, this is what my guides tell me, you got to make sure to cover the basics, and you know, and it doesn't hurt you to review it, and it doesn't hurt people even if they've heard this, you know, because I go over the one from the day. For the day, this is me going over the, you know, the basics for the day, you know, and that's, so even if you know the basics, it's, you know, you're going over it for today, you know, yay, okay. So hopefully I'm not selling you, you know, something, you know, like that you wouldn't already be buying. All right, so so the quality is the magnetics, and at these numbers here, the 31, you know, from the 5, but it's still at 0. So the bottom of these are 0. So you picture, in our, I don't even know what it is, this illustration of me kind of envisioning how to look at the upside down spectro relative to the right side up data, the dependencies, as they call it, you know, like what we're calling not we, I'm not making this up, but what they have called the dependencies of the amplitude, the quality, and the frequency. Okay, the frequency is the wave length in kilometers. Okay, so see the scale here in kilometers is again 7.47 to 8.06. So these are smaller wavelengths, which is, you know, it's not your speed, that's your frequency, is the wavelength, you know, over time, okay, and it dips. You see these periodical diurnal dips, the 24-hour period, okay, and the frequency, you know, like, all right, dips down, let's dip way down there to 7 point, you know, like, wow, and you see this dip, and usually as the amplitude picks up, there you go, but bang, the frequency drops down. That's a common thing you see, a peak of, you know, peak of an amplitude you'll see. But these, remember, these are diurnal, okay? The sun, you got to look at the time. Here, that's like 9, 8 in the morning. What time is that? 7. It's local time, right? This is local time. This is universal time. The local time to me is more important when we're looking at where, again, why? Because I've said the local variations mean more than where you are. You have to look what's happening in their day over there, right? Your day varies. right? You look at the universal time, I happen to know I'm 5 minus 5 UTC, they're plus 7 UTC. So, you know, how much of this is actually affecting you immediately when the when the amplitude is quick spike, bang, 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 right there in the spot. Okay, so I always say, make sure to mention this, that this is an educational model. Okay, now a lot of people do corroborate that they're having issues, and this is what the is that energy plasma? Yeah, more or less is, because it's a high charge. Yes, Gene, that is tends to be a plasma-based electrons. It's a high charge. Comes from the bottom of the ionosphere. Okay, you got to remember, stuff from the sun a lot of times gets filtered out by the magnetosphere and by the ionosphere. Okay, so it kind of presses down, and we get the bottom part of the ionosphere, and then the lithosphere, and you have to understand that we get stuff from the atmosphere that's been compressed down to us, and then there's stuff that does make it through. But you got to remember that there's first a few lines of defense of what that's why a lot of people don't see solar flares, right? You don't see it like as a flash per se. Holy crap, but you feel it, right? And so that is why, it's because it's like highly ionized around us, and it kind of just filters through as a differential going from one state to another, turning from a velocity to a frequency, a straight line, kilometers per hour, into a cycles per second, turning from a plasma held together by electron attraction, mutual attraction. They're all having fun, heading from the sun, through the IMF, our intermagnetic field. Okay? It depends who you are. That depends how well you ground it. You're energetic means you're able to ground these energies and you're not holding on to them. And I've talked about these Schumann resonances being electromagnetic gravity waves to you, that if you're not able to clear out these lower resonating frequencies, you get stuck there. They're not, they're held intact by circling around the world a bunch of times. They've gone from electric, the plasma, into a cohesive wave. It's a frequency. It's turned from that free form into through electron depositioning. That's technically what it is. So it combines with the atmosphere, with the molecules, and then it starts turning from that speed, the velocity, into it hits the ground. When it hits the ground, it bounces. It starts bouncing, right? That plasma has combined with the atmosphere around us, mostly nitrogen, but nitrogen, oxygen, argon, whatever, and it's turned into a more of a cohesive state through that bonding, and then electronically, whatever, all of this, and then it turns into the frequency. It starts bouncing. Once it starts bouncing, that's where you start seeing this. Okay, that it's these waves coming in, and they're also sort of affecting each other because they bounce. It takes them a little bit to change from one form to another. It's interaction. So that's what you're seeing, that you have to look at the way it's interacting. I don't know how to put it. Yes, frequency multiplied by quality. Yeah, so somewhere in there is there's an equation, and this is really beyond me, but the density, which is your gravity. Okay, the Schumann resonance frequencies are not rising, but their gravity is. Right? This is the only best way to put it that I think accurately describes it. But anyone that is familiar with the unified theory, you can see it's not. We're not talking about the Schumann resonances, the frequencies rising in any significant way. That you couldn't imagine those lines, these fixed. They're fixed because of the constants or the relative constants. Hopefully you were there watching Rupert Sheldrake talk about the constants, that little blurb he did from the TED Talk, which, he talks about morphic resonance. And so that was part of the morphic resonance talk that he gave. I'm reading the comments. So does that. Yeah, your body stores energy. Yeah. How do you get rid of it? You got to ground, right? So I did, I think the last, or maybe the live stream before that, I did on grounding, and for however much I talked on that particular topic, that was the stated clear intention where we were talking about grounding of these energies that you need to consciously. There's a number of things you can and should do, but I think I have to. There's like a part 2, but I think yesterday we were talking about this. We're talking about the spiritual Faraday cage. It was supposed to be more of the EMI type. It was. How do I say this? There is a type of Faraday cage that involves copper wire and metal and stuff. That is what you would call EMI protection. Okay. There is another Faraday cage. It is a spiritual Faraday cage of how to ground out these energies here that we were talking about. Okay. So I had originally intended it to talk about the EMI shielding, which I have up here. Is this 11? Yeah, shielding, and here it is. So this is, in theory, the lesson for today. Okay, or this will be the next session. But basically, the question that we're answering is, which by one of my subscribers subs, in reference to the one I had done about, the Faraday cage, the proper Faraday cage. It was exactly what type of metal do you recommend for EMP or CMEs? How thick? Where would I look to buy it? How would I protect solar panels? Okay, so this is the proper lesson that I'm supposed to be doing today here. Okay, but by request, I'm doing the observations from the 29th. That was something that one of my, specifically Bradley had long-time subs had wanted to see. But first, I'm doing the observations on the Schumann Resonances, and I'm trying to give you an image of how to kind of visualize the two different charts and what the spectro and the amplitude and how this all works and how it all kind of, from a simple perspective, how it all works. Hopefully, I've done that. Like I said, the quality is the magnetics, the amplitude is the electrics, that's upright. And I had pointed out, these are from the ground. They're measuring at the ground. So this is from the ground, right? Bam. So if you picture the green being what we would have here on Earth, what we're connected with here, these waves here affect us the most. These ones here, because they're the biggest, I'm maintaining that. These are the biggest of the waves. These ones here, the 31, right? 9.5 isn't that big in the amplitude. Okay, but you see them spiking. But you see this here, 26, the frequency of 26.4 multiplied by the 31 right? These peaks here. Bradley had mentioned that in the comments, and that's what we're talking about here. If you're multiplying the size of the wave, the density, equals the gravity of the freaking wave. What we're talking about, like getting knocked over by a wave in the water, right? These are electromagnetic waves, and so these are what affect people the most. These big parts down here. The quality, the amplitude doesn't last that long. It's electric. It's by theory, it doesn't last that long. But this is a wowie here when you have these the magnetic part, which is what we have down here, the closest you have down there. And this is what goes up closer to the sky. Like this is further up. These are different height, right? That's a different. That's the only way I can kind of describe that. Is this is a different height coming from this amplitude is a higher source than the lower. The Earth is grounding out the amplitude. So this is closer to Earth. All of these are measured. Even though they're on the same machine, they're measured closer to Earth, and these are what is coming the highest waves that are coming down. It's measuring the tallest waves are these white ones here. So that's what this is measuring. Is this mode here is measuring the tallest of these waves, and see they're all kind of requited, what I call requited. These, this is all kind of unified there, but this goes off on its own. This green and that green go off on its own together. Whereas the rest of this is all unified. These three modes are all unified. So if you look at that as coming from the sky down, and that waves coming from, the ground up, you get a good kind of picture, an illustration, I think, of how to look at this in what's physically happening. Does this all make sense, hopefully? All right, so Susan says, thank you for explaining that. Yeah, grounding. So this is what we're talking about, that these waves here are what, you standing there in the middle of this is you grounding these out. There's a number of ways that you can do this. Okay, first and foremost, what you have to do is you have to want to ground it out. Okay, so part of the things you can do is take a swim in the water, take a soak in the Epsom salts. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Meditation, resting, get rid of the toxic people in your life, clear out the accumulated stuff in your life. There's a bunch of things that you can do, okay? Trying to think of more. All right, so what I'm going to do, I need to take a break now. I'm going to play some music because I have to take a restroom break. Okay, so I'm going to entertain you, hopefully with some music, something fancy.
Or stay alive. Gotta figure this shit out.
All right, so I will be back in.
Upon entrance, we gotta find our comfort and energy zones, all on our own. Sure, there's all kinds of help along the way, but day to day, we must stay open, vigilant, focused, unfocused if necessary, kind, always necessary, courageous, strong. Just feel free. Be free. Balancing everything. Balance in all the things. Will that let our freedoms ring true? Loud, free. So many queries. What's fake? What's real? What should we believe? What should we not believe? The answers ain't never clear, ain't never easy. Not necessarily. So, fuck it. Just be.
Okay, I'm officially back now. All right. So there's a bunch of me talking and nothing going on. All right. I don't know about what I said, Gene. I don't know about uh, niacin immediate release flush only because I don't know anything about that. However, it does bring up a good point that you do need to monitor your dietary intake of different supplements, dietary supplements. All right. This gets into a ay caramba. I'm trying to it's not that I don't know how to kind of say this. I'm trying to keep this on a basic level that you kind of you are what you eat. Okay. You are what you intake, and part of the thing, like, I don't know that much about niacin, but that's a good example of things that I'm having trouble kind of phrasing this in words, but as like sodium to certain things, niacin, calcium, potassium, some are electrolytes, and I don't know that much specifically about each one in each case to kind of know, what, like, specifically what niacin does. But I know that, like, the dietary, what I'm just calling dietary supplements, like anything of this sort that you would eat. I know it's one of these supplements that you would want, I believe, you'd want in your diet, uh, that it is something that you want to monitor. Okay, so I don't know more than that, but it does feed in generally to what I've been talking about of you holding on to a certain potential of energy based on your crystalline structure. So things like salt, sugar, uh, nice potassium, salt. I don't know what your level should be. I'm not even sure I know what my level should be. But there is a certain level of your dietary needs, dietary supplements that are going to affect your conductivity. Okay, so any of you that are still awake here, tell me that makes sense if you understood that. Now that I'm back, thank you. I appreciate your patience and your nice. All right, so one of the things that I talk about with COVID, is your immunity system. You know, like before you go looking at anything external as the cause of your bad health or your good health, look at your local conditions. Same thing applies. I don't think it's a scientific principle so much, but I think it kind of is somewhere, you know. It's certainly a Buddhist principle. When you point your finger at the moon, don't confuse your finger with the moon. And that's always what I say. What that means is that you look at what's around you, your immediate surroundings first as a potential cause of any sickness, and something that's happening in Russia, the other side of the world, maybe then second, but you got to clear out your home first. And so it's the same thing when I talk about leading a dirty life, is you're in a number of ways. People, this is just my opinion. I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm going to give you my humble view on this, is that a lot of people are being affected by the because they have not been taking care of themselves in a good, healthy way, and they were already sick going into this. And it's kind of a sort of evolutionary sort of thing that has picked off the least healthy of the bunch. Peace be unto them. It sucks that people should have to die ahead of their time. you know but it's an example of the bigger picture that I'm making about us being in this society, being bombarded by the wireless too. Okay, I'm not immune to this. I'm getting my share of radiation. Here I get this great setup that the universe has given me. Wireless, 2 monitors, an amp, and just speakers, huge ass speakers, 1,000-watt jammies. Well, the desktop that isn't quite working, needs a new hard drive. I love electronics. My email is I fix technology. One. I accept the radiation as part of the occupational hazard. But it resonates. We resonate with it. And that's one of the thing about the Schumann. Meg. Hi, Meg. Trish. Oh, hi, Trish. Wow. We're just getting warmed up. Good. Hey. Hey, Trish. Wonderful to see you. It's nice seeing the people that I recognize. New people. Yes, I always appreciate seeing new people. But then I go, oh, hey, I picked a time where, some of my regulars, the family, or part of the family are there as well. Thank you. So, specifically speaking, I can't talk on niacin, but it falls under the category of the general conversation that I'm having, I think, about your electric potential of your cells. Because as you eat things, as you take it, it gets into your genetic structure, Okay. It's keeping me. I'm reading Susan's comment. I cleared so much negativity that was keeping me down spiritual. Yeah, there you go. That's part of it as well. You have to. It kind of starts from the top down. You sort of have to clean out those spiritual, resentments you have against people from 30 years ago. Like it sort of works the top down. And then eventually the lower densities become cleared out. But if you can clear out the lowest of the low first, you're good. But a lot of times, what we were talking about the difference between the particle and the wave. And it's the lowest common denominator of those waves that are actualized, that essentially keep people enmeshed, that keep people, oh good golly, what's the word, that keep people fixed. It's gravity. You're looking at those waves of gravity, right? If you didn't know this before and you hadn't heard this before, this is what I'm telling you, that you're seeing this times this, okay, the frequency times the quality, okay, gives you this huge mass of density, which is gravity. The frequency is not increasing. It's always at 7.8. The middle of that is not, it's like a string. Bing! The middle C. That's your middle C, your lower, the one below that, the lowest of middle C, the lowest, whatever it is. I don't know, whatever you people call that, but that's the C, right? That's the middle, ding. You know, it's always tuned to that string. You see it. Sometimes the string vibrates a little bit more, right? But its frequency isn't it, but its harmonics, you know, the chord. Right? For those music freaks of you, like Bradley, I'm sorry not to call you a freak, but a music freak. Like lyrics freak, but a music freak. You know, it's one, a Phreek, you know. You will understand harmonics. That's why I have put out there all of those great and wonderful videos where we talk about different ways to look at the harmonics. And I got the, as it says in the comments, the old guy sitting at the piano, which happened to be Leonard Bernstein. Like, all right, you know, the old dude, you know, Mythbusters and the flaming, uh, you know, things, so you visually can see these that you otherwise wouldn't see. You otherwise couldn't see these without the special antenna, you know, but you can see the wave of the harmonics going through the tube. Right? So that's why it's important that you see it's bunching up. It bunches up in a certain way that it acts as like cordwood. In a sense. This is daylight. You got to remember, this is daylight. This is the most sun you're getting. Okay? And so the sun activates different layers, all the different layers of, you know, all of them. The lithosphere, I have an article, a boring ass article on Earth electricity. There you go. Earth electricity, a review of mechanisms which cause telluritic currents in the lithosphere. Doesn't that sound like exhilarating reading to you? It does to me. You know, abstract. Let's see what this says here, just for kicks and giggles. Abstract. Telluritic currents are natural electrical phenomena in the earth or in its bodies of water. The strongest electric currents are related to lightning phenomena or space weather. Earth electricity can cause damage to structures and may be useful for earthquake forecasting and other applications. 32 distinct mechanisms that cause Earth electricity are described, and a broad selection of current research is highlighted. Now, doesn't that sound fascinating to you? It does to me. Okay, so, you know, like that is the Earth's, we talk about the Earth's DC circuit. We talk about the AC, you know, the Schumann resonances operate in the isolating cavity. That's the AC, the wave, okay? So the wave circles around the globe, hits into itself, knocks into itself, and starts stacking up, okay? So this is the process of how the Schumann resonances are created. It is the stacking up of the 7.8 and then the 14.4, you know. So I don't know how or what it would take to get rid of the 7.8 so that only the 14.1 was then the lowest, right? I mean, this is what you have to talk about, that if it's rising, it's like the 7.8 is gone. Okay. And pharmakia, yeah, the pharmakia, yeah. So you have to understand something that I think about this, and I operate on this much different protocol and a principle than uh than most other people. Wages World said, I can get my, Schumann, report elsewhere, but I go to Verde, which means green, by the way. But it comes to me because I have the paper and I have fun reading boring ass stuff and then writing even more long rambling boring stuff. Like this, my crackpot theory of how the Schumann resonances affect you on your genetic level, what they are, what they do, and how to. Our lesson for today really is supposed to, here, this one. All right, so the answer to those questions is here, right? I think I gave, well, I'm just checking to see if I have the web address there. This is all EMI shielding, bunch of information. Of course, I didn't leave any links to it. All right, I'm supposed to do that elsewhere. But these are, in some cases, these are sales pitches, okay, from the website. Okay, so this is what we're moving toward. The two of them, your genes, your genes, your genetic structure, the proteins and saccharides, polysaccharides, your calcium that are affected by the Schumann resonances or electromagnetic resonances or waves. How do you protect yourself from that? From also resonant background radiation. Well, there we go. There's the website. So I can at least say that I introduced the topic here and where it's supposed to be before I get over to what I had promised someone else. I'm multitasking. So these are the places that you go. So Strauss is one of them, Mauser, Boyd Corp, Stumac. So these are where a person would go. I'll just see. I'm jumping ahead of things here, but these are places of shielding, and these are their. This is a video unto itself. This is the next video here. All right. So, so that answers this question here, River Girl. Who thank you for asking that question. I said the next video, but it is the next video following this one here. But there's a part 2 of the spiritual. We talked about the spiritual, I could remember the spiritual Faraday cage, and so that's what this is on the tail of. Like, this all goes together. This is all interwoven. This is all there's a learning curve to this. This is a steep learning curve to this. And I'm going to pause here, as if maybe I wasn't already paused off the lesson, and say that this is one of the reasons why I like having Alex with me here doing this, because I ask him back on behalf of other people. The average person, doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, sometimes it does, and sometimes it needs to be cleared up, and that's why I need the comments from you folks. If what I'm saying doesn't make sense, if I've gone off the rails and explaining something, and I'm too esoteric or too whatever, you got to pull me back in. Especially if my musical accompaniment, my musical host isn't with me. That's sort of what you guys' job is, in a sense, is to kind of make sure I'm making sense of this and I haven't gone off the the rails, like I said. And so if people aren't telling me, hey, you lost me, I'm gonna kind of keep in my meandering sort of way on on the topic, and yet still address whatever you all have that you're asking about, because this is Q&A, and I want to make sure, again, I always have secured the basics, and fundamentals are always understood, because I have a different kind of view of this than the majority of other people around. So there's a different set of things you gotta really get with my learning structure. I don't even know how to put this, but you all know what I'm talking about. If you've been here for a while, you know what I'm talking about. The what I talk about in my channel, it's because I have been, I ask my guides, tell me what is, how am I supposed to, my guides are from the central sun, to put it simply. Who do I, when I think of God, I don't think of the nameless end, like retirement. There's a retirement, but that's like before that. You have like levels, a lot of levels of spiritual growth you got to go through. Earth school is one. After this, once you graduate here, there's other places you can go that are nice, that are fun, that you can get some kind of spiritual, really, really true spiritual development in a way that you can't here on Earth. This is a battle zone. Humanity has been fighting the wars of the gods for quite a long time. And that's why the genes, the genetics, the DNA has been shut off of the humans because of our potential. That's part of what the awakening is, part of the harvest time is it's time for that stuff to get turned back on. And this is supposed to be helping you in some way. However, it needs to be by your conscious intention. And part of it is you are an instrument for grounding. You need to do the physical work of actually intending it to be grounded through you and to channeled and cleared through you. Okay? Yes, Bradley, it is literature. That is from the 29th. This is from, I'm pretty sure, this is the one that you had asked about on the community page. And this would be it. Yes. All right. So part of this, I've gone into some introduction here to this. I think I'm up to speed on this. We're talking about the Schumann Resonances as the resonant harmonics as a density, because you see the little math there. There's not even a big ass equation because I don't know big equations. I don't know math, but I do know enough about this from my guides, the council that I am an emissary of. They explained this to me. I trained for this elsewhere. So that's why I know this, because it's like they're opening up doors and like, you already know this, it's like, just think of it this way and like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, and pictures, because everyone needs pictures to go by. I do. I know I do. These very complicated things. So when we talk about the resonant harmonics, they are not frequencies, they're densities, okay? Like, you got to understand that. They're fixed. The frequencies bounce up and down, up and down. You saw that, up and down and up and down. But they're filled in by the quality part. It kind of all makes a mass. It equals a density, okay? The harmonics, the Schumann Resonance Harmonics, are that wave, the density or the gravity of the people as a wave. Okay, we talked about this expression as well, of it. People, you can't consciously, intentionally think yourself out of it. It's, you have to, like it showed you with the heart. That's why one of the things it was talking about with the heartfelt communication with the horses is it showed you a coherence with the higher resonance. And you can, in fact, resonate to a higher gravity, but you need to clear out the lower gravity, the lower density vibrating stuff first. And that's all your emotions. Fear, anything fear-based. Anything that you're afraid of losing. Relationships, toxic relationship you don't want to let go of. You have family, let's just say, in my family tree, there's incest issues, and all of those people are dead, like, okay, so, I can't, like, I'm not hurting anyone's reputation now. They're all dead, but it's in the blood, it's in the genes. I didn't do anything, but I can feel it. It's part of the resonance. I don't have any kids, I haven't acted on it. It's not, but I know it's there, and it's maybe, my mom having me spiritual communication with my mom. Maybe that's, she's told me stuff in the spirit form. Okay, I'm willing to accept that. But the DNA, the genes that are resonating before you got into them, your spirit got into them, operated your physical resonances with the lowest, your genes that you occupy in this body, in this physical form that you're enmeshed in, have been vibrating at this really low frequency for quite a long time. And it's gotten used to it, and it's not necessarily that it's preferential, but you feel in tune with everything when your brain wave is operating at this low kind of frequency. However, the point I have been making is that the rise in the frequency doesn't come without an increased gravity of the lower ones. They're sticking around. They're sticking around. And I don't know what it might take or could take for them to be, when you talk about raised, the raising of the Schumann frequencies, we're assuming, for the sake of conversation, that you're talking about getting rid of the 7.8. Okay. There's no way the 7.8 is itself rising up, except, I've said this before, 0.5. It's half of a hertz. The Schumann resonance, the fundamental waves underneath the harmonic resonance rise and fall by 0.5. Right? So it's 0.5, and then it hits itself again, and then chops itself up again, and then, bing, as it goes around the world, it kind of builds up. Like I said, it's a gravity. It has density. It has a mass, and you see that because in the middle of it, you see this. That's an electrical field there. That, let's just assume, that can travel all around the world, but that doesn't do that as this mass here. It does this as this mass, right? This doohickey, these stalagmites, and I like calling them stalagmites, or whichever ones are from the top hanging down, because they stay there. Those stay there, activate these, and then this is where this is today. This is where today. All right. So then those activate these. Okay. So that all clanging, dang, 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 dang of the bell has caused these ringing reaction to be multiplying at these tiers. They're like stacking cordwood. Okay. So if that makes sense to anyone, please leave me comments. If there's anyone who's still awake, I would love to hear from you. So all right, so I've explained this. I gave the observations. Hopefully no one's offended that I get off the track. All right, so this is by request. All right, so this was basically originally, and even before I get into the lesson. Okay, so this was basically originally posted on the 29th, and I posted this on the YouTube, as well as this was in the community, and this is as well as on Facebook. Okay, and so this is a introductory. I'm setting this pathway, or I have set at the beginning of November. I set this pathway that I wanted to explain again. All of this geared toward the newcomer, the most basic lessons, and we're always going over the fundamentals for the people who may be new here. And I want to weave this in, what's a lot of the old timers know, get you up to speed. This is where we're going, and try and figure out a way to kind of, keep the plates all spinning, and not bore people with what they already know, but then not, it's boring if you're not on track with what's going. There's a lot going on here. And thank you all for your patience and your support as I've been trying to, kind of fumble my way through doing these videos. This is a lot of fun. Thank you all for being here. So I'm originally, just the introduction to this is originally I wanted to do this just as an introduction to people to understand some of the basics, relative to what you may be feeling physically, and so the crackpot theory, what I'm calling crackpot theory, is that the Schumann resonances could be affecting you physically. That if you're having, how do you say that? Having ringing in the ears, that it's tinnitus and it's not based in the Schumann resonances. All right. So that's what the crackpot theory that I talk about is, from the sense of the Schumann resonances, what they could potentially do from a technical level, right? And that's what I'm looking at here as a technician, and somewhat of a electrical engineer. I used to work at radio stations. I had a broadcast. I was a DJ at Mitchell College in New London. I've worked at public radio, public TV. I have talked with radio engineers. I went to school for radio engineering, and I have a background in this. So technically speaking, what do I know about the electromagnetics, and what can I prove? All right. So that's sort of what we're looking at here is the Tesla. That's the Tesla code there, 936. So we're looking at this from the perspective of what do the Schumann resonances do to a person in his or her body, I guess, in the physical form. So under my column, I guess, of observations on the Schumann resonances. Hi Trish, oh great, thank you. I'm glad someone's awake. And Susan, oh thank you. I try to keep this very casual. And there's ever a push and a pull of me wanting to stay on track and me having fun with, the conversation and the dialogue. It's like, it's no fun to be with someone who's always, like, we're just going to stick with the topic. I'm just going straight there. And no, you're not going to take a bathroom break. And no, you're not, like, no, that's no fun. And, like that's, you want to have a good time with it. And so that's kind of what this is, that part of it is, to have a lively interchange, with the audience. Certainly, I'm bringing you information, but I know a lot of this is technical, and, the phrase, like, yeah, maybe people, not quite literally sleeping, but sometimes it's like, all right, well, did I lose anyone? And we're a family here. The people that I am pretty sure of this, that, I don't know exactly how many are here, but, maybe 10 or whatever, but, it's like, you all are family, and so 9, I guess it says 9 concurrent viewers. All right. So there you go, whatever. But, thank you all for being here, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's, the people that are here were meant to be here. And this is a different message than what other people are giving out. And like a lot of this is kind of complicated, and I want to make sure that everyone is kind of, getting this, right? So yeah, I kind of am up for the late night thing too. I am trying to stagger these so that there are different points, so that people at different time um, different time zones are able to be part of this. I personally like the doing these at night because things are a little bit more quiet. They're not, jumping around upstairs. I have the sensitivity of this set up fairly high, so I don't need to, yell. The system, the new OBS system is like, oh, this thing's freaking killer. It's getting good pictures. It's not. Finally, I now have a program that isn't wobbling. The camera's not wobbling as I'm trying to do a picture. So, we're talking about, generally speaking, how are the Schumann resonances affecting people in the DNA, the genetic level? Unless you're listening to kind of someone like me, unless you yourself are following along and you yourself know, like you just people just say, well, it is, and it's like, well, how? And so sort of what I've been asking, what I've been answering is literally, how do the Schumann resonances affect your DNA? And the thing is, the answer that comes back is when you see what I talk about, that the magnetics, the quality, the quantity of the quality, the frequency times the quality gives you the density, which is the gravity. You start looking at this in a much different way than, oh, they're going to liberate you. And, you start knowing, when you start knowing exactly what they are, it's like, oh, wow, maybe that's why I feel so miserable and I feel so depressed, is it's that these really low densities have to vibrate out the poisons, the toxins in people's lives. And everything is electromagnetics, but at a certain point it becomes gravity. And it's not a free will. It's not a that side. I use the expression people as a particle, then people as a wave, and then people as permanent, as a permanent thing, that they're stuck. It's in their density. And they're just stuck in amber of that, those electromagnetic densities. We talk about the clearing of the densities at 6.6 hertz intervals, and so this is part of what has to happen, that if you're resonating with people of those lower densities who just can't manage to get out of their own way, you can't associate with them locally anymore. It has to become Bell's non-locality. The oh, what the heck is his name? The uncertainty principle. You have to be outside of the physical range of that person, because it's the heart. It's not the thoughts. It's the heart that. You saw that at the beginning, for those of you who are here with the horses, the horse and the human, that the bigger heart draws the other one. The horse has a bigger heart, so its magnetism draws the coherence of the smaller, the lesser. And if you are the one with compassion, you're the one with the bigger heart. Your bigger heart draws the smaller, weaker heart. And that's what separates and differentiates you as a worker of the light, the bearer of light, that some people, the only thing that some humans may ever know is you as the true light bearer. You resonate, you have to vibrate at a higher frequency and not let that get you gravitationally entangled in the resonances of a lower vibrating person. Right? Does that make sense? That's what the Schumann resonances are, that they're keeping people at the lowest common denominator, and it's not that you can't rise, but you have to want to, right? And so that's part of that wave function, that wave is intact, that wave is coherent, it's gravity now. It is now a legitimate thing, and you see it on the chart. Again, the quality times the frequency that gives you the density, basically, or the mass of magnetism, which is the proton, starts moving from electron into the proton range, and we talk about, wages, we talk about the density, the proton density, right? The electrons are high, the difference between the two. The electrons are high charge, good straight line, velocity, as opposed to the other one, the width of it, the current, the protons of the current, which are the magnetism, okay? So this all kind of feeds in together, the electromagnetics of it. So when Wages World talks about the proton density, being up, that's the width of it that's going to whack you. It's not just a straight line through you, like the broadside of a board, it's, I don't know how to explain it better than that, but that's the electron versus proton density thing. So moving in from one state, literally like moving in, that resonance of 7.8 moving in, becoming fixed like a guitar string that it vibrates at a certain natural resonant frequency. Once you tune it, it moves. That's what that is. And if you picture those as strings vibrating at C, or you could even look at it as the musical notes in there somehow. If you pictured these being, I talked to someone about this, these being strings of an instrument, okay? These are notes and strumming pattern in there. You were to look at it like that, and this is the E string. I think it's the E string, the big heavy one, and that gets up to the tiny, tiny, tiny string up there that you never ever use, but it's being plucked. So this tiny waist string over here is being plucked by, something or other. All right. So, all right. So, all right. So we'll get back to the observations here, as we are 2 hours. That's not bad. 2 hours into this. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you for being here, your love and support. Thank you for coming around, Bradley, Trish, Susan, and any of you that were here that I missed. You make this worthwhile. Thank you. I do this for you all because I already know how this works. So what's the point of me just holding on to this for myself, by myself? I mean, a lot of people, they learn something, they say, oh, what do you think, and this and that. It's like, well, I don't necessarily I don't care what you think on this, but I want to talk with you. I do care what you think, and I want to make sure that because you people have told me, I've learned stuff from the comments, from reading this. That's why I have this set up with 2 monitors here, so I can read the comments, because I want to know what, if you've learned something, and maybe you have something, like I said, maybe you got something to offer me, and that's what's important. So, all right, so onward and upward. All right. 2 hours into this, I'm finally getting to the lesson. All right, so this is, generally speaking, under my kind of column, observations on the Schumann Resonance Harmonics. As I have scoured the body of literature on technical aspects of the Schumann Resonances to understand what the detector antennas are receiving and what the complex of machinery are recording, the following narrative gives the reader a summary of the important aspects of deciphering the information of the Schumann Resonances and related phenomena. Okay. So, this is my crackpot theory. All right. This is my crackpot theory. That is my theory, which is made up by a crackpot. All right, crackpot theory. All right. So I can do this. There we go. All right. That this period of time might be called the Great Harvest Time could be a crackpot theory, I will confess. it's very difficult to prove this is an actual thing. More to the point, it is a theory as to whether physical symptoms are related to this alleged ascension. Okay, so if that doesn't make sense, what I'm saying is that, my personal belief here in this, first and foremost, is that this is called the Great Ascension time. It's clearing of this cycle, this last cycle, okay, which is giving everyone, it's what they call the wrap-up of the wrap-up. It's giving everyone a chance to make your final, your last lifetime, and maybe another lifetime after this, but not many more. Karma is wrapping up. Karma as a principle, you get back what you give people. That is going away. That's gone away. And it's like the whole thing of instant karma, like it really truly is a thing that as you give out, it's coming back sooner and sooner to people, Make sure that you only give out good, so that's only what's coming back to you. All right. So the harvest time, it's called the threshing floor. In the Bible, it's called the threshing floor. And so that is what we are at now. Okay. A lot of things have to break down. An egg. How perfect is an egg? Round, it's like you can't break it in your hand unless you're wearing like a ring or something or whatever. Perfect. Yet, as perfect as it is, how many of their eggs do you break making an omelet? When you break up the egg, you think of, oh my God, how perfect this is. I'm breaking perfection. No. You break it, you throw it to the side. Hopefully, you recycle it, but throw it, perfection, you throw it in the garbage or whatever. It's a thing, whatever. All right. So, the point being that you don't, a person, we, you, me, we don't cry over the egg, even though it's perfect. It's that the necessary kind of thing that you just don't think about what has to be broken or what becomes broken to re-establish the omelet, I guess, food for the tribe, for the family. There's a bit of a sacrifice of stuff. I don't know. So this is part of what this is it's the separating the wheat from the chaff. Okay. Now I'm collecting the chaff. I'm putting it in the recycle bin, or using it to fuel the fire. I know that the eggs contain, eggshells contain calcium. You chop it up, put it in the garden. Give me anything you're going to throw away, and I will show you some other use it can still be used for. Like other than just throwing it in a big pile or out in the sea, whatever. All right, but that's just me. So, but that's in my DNA. That's how I think, and that's part of what clearing out the lower densities is that I don't have waste. I'm not holding on to waste, not anymore. And I'm not going to try and throw away things that I can, recycle for something. But it becomes difficult, and my density gets brought down because I have no other choice than to kind of ride the wave of, there's me wanting to be the particle, and then there's settling with the inevitable. I'm part of the wave. All right, so let me address this because I'm off the topic of what I was talking about. I will say this: people have different views of the age of Aquarius. Okay, some people don't realize it's happening. Some people don't know what it is or what it means or any of that. And that's fine. That's all good. This will either resonate with you or not. With or without you, it may or may not resonate. All right, whatever. So, it is my humble opinion that the age of Aquarius has already started. Okay. Started a while ago. Okay. In my humble view, somewhere around the year 1660 is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Okay. These things never, it's not like, you know how the clock, it just generally kind of sweeps around like that. And then you look at it, it's sort of this kind of, that's how it is. There's, that humans need there to be one solid marker of things happening. And so for humans, it's this convenience that, oh, this is a certain date, the 2012, it's, uh, December 21st, 2012. There are auspicious alignments in the sky, and you can look at that as being, all right, like this one coming up, you can look at it as being the beginning of the age of Aquarius if you want. Okay. Now, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to argue with that as long as you accept we're now in it. If that's what you need as that marker, then that's fine. It's a lot of this is belief. I'm not trying to change anyone's belief. But my view is that it started a long time ago. And remember this, that humans have been fighting the wars of the gods for quite a long time. And part of this is who's in control. What kingdom, what empire, who's pulling the strings here? Who's in charge of Aquarius? And that's every man, all of us. So what I'm suggesting to you is that, and this, I love this discussion, and this is sort of the track of this, but since you brought it up, I'd much rather talk about the age of Aquarius because I have a lot to say about it. I'd ask my guides. One of my guides, what do they tell me, coming into this, that the age of Aquarius started in the middle of 1650, 1660. You look at all the things that had happened there. The how many vaccines, what they discovered, penicillin. There's the play Everyman. Plays were different back then, and it was theater. It was this revolutionary idea that John Q. Public is the head character, the lead character of the theater. Right now, Andy Warhol said, a couple hundred years later, everyone will get their 15 minutes spotlight in the future. And son of a gun, if that hasn't happened, every John Q. nobody has a YouTube channel, and they're now, internet famous. My guilty here, myself included. Who am I worth 2,000 people? Other than I talk about the Schumann Resonances like no one else will. Well, all right, yeah, all right. And the girl that lives in the her Bronco. All right, she's got 40,000 or almost 500,000. I don't know, whatever. Some crazy, mostly guys, whatever. But this is part of what the Aquarian age is that it's taking it from knowledge. One of the things, taking knowledge from only the learned scribes, manuscript, the kings, only the ones with money took it down from. Yes, again, Susan, yes. We started in the age of Aquarius. What I'm suggesting is 1660. You have the King James Version of the Bible. What happens, I'm reading Anne Mema Yellow Feather. All right, so an age starts before the other one ends. There's an overlap between when one age starts and when the other one ends. So there is, in the course of 2,500 years, right? 2,500 years, there's a few hundred years of an overlap, a few decades of overlap between, centuries of going from one to the other and of the one giving up control. So what I'm talking about is that the fully recognized Piscean age is coming up. The end of the old age is officially being recognized. So if everyone were to say, oh, this is the beginning of the Aquarian age, I'm fine with that, even though I know the roots have been in since 1660, 1650, and I would love to go through the list of all the wonderful things that had happened in the course of the last couple hundred years. But that's what I'm saying is the Aquarian age is getting all set up. And so now we are in the swing of the Aquarian age. It's not starting, it's already started hundreds of years ago. Right? You couldn't just automatically just start up one day, like it goes from one to the other just one day, like, oh yeah, we'll just pick up, like, that would be impossible. So yeah, the age of Aquarius started a long time ago, before any of us here were born, but it needed time to get established, right? Do we understand that? The age, this new age here, the one that we're in, fully in, had to get rooted back when. And so the last few decades, 20, 30, within half the course of my lifetime, things have changed radically in the Aquarian way of, like a Vesica Pisces. There's a point where it's over, it's done. It's a narrow kind of slit, and then it opens wide, and that's what this kind of closing of the portal is coming up soon. All right, who are you? And Mena Yellow Feather. It is the truth, and all you do is observed by a culture that has no place for evil. God, that is... Who are you? I think I'm going to... Okay. Right? There we go. That was me, just so we all know. Right? I put you in timeout. I don't have any moderators. I am the moderator. Right. That's why I love this two-screen system, that I can just... Actually, you know what? Oh, come on. I'm trying to fix this thing here. I haven't, up to this point, I haven't needed this, but here's what I'm going to do. There we go. There we go. I have not needed a moderator up to this point, but now I have one. Thank you. Alrighty. My first wrench. Alrighty. That way I don't have to worry about clowns. I'm sorry. Oh, don't use the C word. Clowns are scary. That's my joke. All right. So you have to clear out the negative densities. And here's a great example, like on these trolls. Like, how does one deal with this kind of thing, as a group? So that you have, like what Wages does. Like, this is, for those few of you who are here who want to be here, and I by few, I say, like Wages has 200 people in the chat, I have 10 or 15, 20, whatever, I love you all for being here, even the clowns, and so this is voluntary, you all don't have to be here. And so I thank you for being here with me. And this is, like a space that I'm sharing with you. And I want this to be part of the community, because those of you who are here really, really want to know about the Schumann Resonances. And, I have a message, and I need to get this out to you, whatever the time is, and here it is. All right. So what I have, all right, so when I talk about the crackpot theory is, again, the first part of this is that it is the great harvest time, that is the great cycle, that part of it is, what is the relationship? I'm sorry, Innes, Bravo, Vesica Pisces is sacred geometry. What is the relationship? Oh, because it's a principle as well. It's a natural shape. It's sacred geometry. That's what it has to. Sacred geometry has to do with everything. You're looking at the telescope through the wrong end. Because it is sacred geometry, it's not limited. That's the relationship, is it's a principle. It is sacred because it is a principle that is enacted in a number of ways. And it's an overlap of two circles, two shapes. That's how you get that. So that's an alchemical process, and that is something that can be transmuted. It can be realized through through the alchemical process, but also through the mental. It's something that where it all starts. So hopefully that answers the question. That's how. Well, we're talking about ascension here. We're talking about the closing of the opening and the closing of the portal. That it's in that type of a shape. That there was a very narrow opening. The way is, the opening of the portal, like eclipses, kind of things over eclipsing each other, and you get a Vesica Pisces, the two overlapping shapes. So within that portal, eclipses are portals that are like that. That there's a singularity. Hold on. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze. So where we are going here in this cycle is there's this Vesica Pisces shape that as things are winding up, it's coming close to a point that, there was a wide bridge and then a narrow, and now it's at the point that things are almost ready to split. There's a very narrow point where you can get on board with the good side, the positive, and not get sucked in to the negative side, as all the rest of the dregs are going to. Does that make sense? I hope it does. All right. All right, good. Okay. So what I'm calling the Ascension Rectification Symptoms, humans act as a bridge rectifier. Okay. What a bridge rectifier is it takes AC current from your line, like your electric line, and it converts it to DC power that you need in your electronics. Sorry about that. So the humans, the point I'm making here is that humans need to act as this so-called bridge rectifier of transferring the AC power of the resonances around you into the DC current of the ground, the earth ground. Excuse me. So this right here is what I'm talking about. The Ascension Rectification Symptoms, where humans act as a bridge rectifier, transducing energy from the AC circuit above ground, the Schumann Resonances, the AC circuit, into the DC circuit of the Earth ground, the body of Gaia, the planet. One of these such phantom symptoms includes vertigo, and another is a so-called tinnitus, or ringing in the ears. All right. So within the pool of content of the channel below, my channel, there's a series, or above here, whatever. There's a series of 5 videos which discuss the topic of the interrelationship between the above cited, between the ringing and the vertigo. All right. So the question is, how would or could the Schumann resonance radio waves have a physiological effect on an individual? Okay. So you're welcome. Thank you all for being here. All right. So how do the Schumann resonances, how do the Schumann resonance radio waves have a physiological effect on an individual? Okay. So this is my experience. Again, I'm coming at this from a radio technician, radio engineer technician, a basic, uh, an intern and a kind of junior engineer. But having been around this, I had another studio in Connecticut. I've been around this. I know enough about what's going on. And so again, from the technical perspective, I have arrived at the Crackpot Theory of how the electromagnetics of the solar and the Schumann energies affect the physical bodies. Okay, so the biggest part of my consciousness is directing me to the basic understanding. All right, so how does this relate to the body, the human body? All right, it's basically, that's what I'm saying is, it's fine to know how the Schumann resonances work, but this has to in some way relate to us physically, that our DNA. If we're talking about ascension and ascension symptoms, what is that relative to the Schumann? Really, technically, what is that? People have a lot of ideas, but what is it? Like, that's what this is. It's analyzing from the white papers and the technical, what it is that we're talking about when we talk about ascension symptoms, your DNA, right? Ascension symptoms are phantom symptoms, okay? We need to understand what that means, okay? Relative to the medical stuff, the term phantom symptoms is an actual real term, okay? So how do the electromagnetics affect your DNA? Well, the Schumann resonances are radio waves, electromagnetics. How do those affect your body, your DNA? There's the piezoelectric effect. I talk about that. Here it is. I'm not going to go into that, but it's one of the basics that I talk about. Whenever we're talking about the ascension symptoms in your DNA, the triggering mechanism to that is, the first one is piezoelectrics, then the next one is ferrofluid, okay, which is a fluid that's able to conduct magnetism and electricity, okay, and then the next one is magnetic induction. It's a little 3-part triangle that works depending on the electromagnetic or gravity aspect of the Schumann resonances, okay. So the thing, you see that, how they're acting, how they're interacting here. Okay, so the two technical principles involved are piezoelectrics and magnetic induction, and I haven't talked about here the ferrofluid as what's in your ear, because I'm just keeping this simple for these two, but there's this other third principle that's involved called the ferrofluid, and again, it's in the ear, which is what helps to give you the vertigo, is that ferrofluid fluid in your upper ear, your semicircular canal, the relatively consistent cavity, the insulating cavity of our immediate atmosphere, which usually is an insulator. So these are all constants. So they are standing waves, they stand, and then they stand upon each other in this fashion. Okay. So those standing waves reinforcing each other become a gravity. Okay. So the Schumann resonances are not spiking amplitudes. The Schumann resonances are those waves that are held flat, basically. All right, harmonics are caused by two or more waves being out of synchronization, which interfere with each other and create a resonance or a harmonic frequency. So you have either the cohesive or constructive resonance or destructive or uncohesive, whatever the word is, dissonant, I think. All right. They interfere with each other. Amplitude spikes are not resonances, nor are they harmonics, nor are these measured in hertz, which are cycles per second. Okay, and I've said this before, and I keep repeating this because it's important to know that frequencies are what are underlying the harmonics. Frequency waves combine to create harmonics. The harmonics are not frequency waves. They're called frequency, they're measured in hertz. Okay, but they're not the same thing as the underlying frequency wave. The harmonic are combined tones, combined waves, right? I want to make sure that we're, again, going over some, some old ground here. Okay, we're going back to basics, all right. So that's what's important here to remember, that you have a velocity, you have a frequency, and then you have a resonant harmonic, which is a density. This is a density of the electromagnetics. All right, amplitude, sorry, pardon me. Amplitude is the electrical component which comes top down from the ionosphere at about 200 to 250 kilovolts, so that's 200,000 to 250,000, to the earth ground. Amplitude is top down, meaning it does not rise to a frequency. Amplitude does not reach up to a frequency. Amplitude comes from a frequency down. Pico, actually, Bradley, pico is P-I-C-O, technically, just for what it's worth. But yes, essentially that is correct, yes. Amplitude is measured in pico electron volts, or decibel pico electron volts, actually. Amplitude lowers down from a reported, where are we? Amplitude, sometimes it does this. Amplitude lowers down from a reported decibel, there it is, decibel power rating, which is pico electron volt decibels of amplitude. All right, that's a mouthful. Amplitude spikes are not resonances. So the spikes you see, the peaks, these are not the resonances because these are velocity. These are not frequency. These are measured in velocity. That's kilometers per hour, kilometers per second, whatever. So these are, they help to cause, they help initiate Schumann resonances, but this isn't the frequency of the the resonance. All right, so you got to remember that. That was someone upstairs dropping something on the floor over my head. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Tesla was a genius and is getting the due credit that is deserved him by the magnetic flux unit that's measured after him. All right, so again, the amplitude is not frequency. This is not frequency. This is magnetic flux. This is frequency. The wavelength of it is frequency. All right. So amplitude spikes are not resonances. They are not harmonic frequencies, which are densities. All right, amplitude spikes are a jolt of electricity which come top down from a much higher voltage than that which was reported by the antenna detector complex. All right. General helpful information on electron discharge of the planetary sphere. All right. Oh, you're welcome, Bradley. If anyone deserves a wrench, you do. I haven't needed one up to this point, really, but, I was thinking about that the other day. You're, of course, my first guest because you've been, first pick for a moderator because you've been here pretty much the longest. You're here pretty much every day, you know. So, you know, if I need another moderator, I'll think about, and another 20 people, I have to think about someone else. But in the meantime, it's just cool. All right, someone has a blue, a blue label there. Oh, you. Anyway. So the Earth sphere, which includes the planet itself, the Earth, the sphere, the ball that's the Earth, the atmosphere which goes out to the ionosphere and then the magnetosphere, etc. The system uses both DC and AC circuits to convey electricity around the global electric circuit. These two components use separate but interrelated methods of transferring electricity and electron depositioning throughout the circuits of the planet herself. Basic description of behavior is as follows. All right. So, what I'm saying there, I've said before, is that, oh yeah, definitely, congratulations, Bradley. He has worked for it. Bradley is definitely a very active person in, my chats and in the other chats. So he's worked for it. His dedication being here, just here in the live chat and then on the comments and all that. Anyway, all right. I'm not getting off topic. All right. So one of the things that we're looking at is the DC and the AC circuit, combining the two DC circuits through an AC channel. So the ionosphere itself is a high charge, like malleable force of charge that circles around the planet, and it's kind of an envelope around the planet, and then there's this kind of insulating atmosphere we have, which usually keeps out the DC, the high voltage DC, and we have the internal low voltage DC of the Earth. So what happens is that there becomes a bridge through usually the insulating space of the atmosphere. So, boom shakalaka, yeah, indeed. So the atmosphere, our immediate atmosphere, gets kind of invaded, if you will, and that charge comes through, and then that ripples through as first the amplitude, but then it grows rapidly into the magnetic and kind of falls down to the ground through this here electric depositioning. Okay, now the DC of the direct current circuit generates from the direct radiation. So the first one is the direct radiation of the sun to the earth, further transmitting and conducting through the planet, through the planetary ley lines. Many rocks are actually conductive under the proper circumstances. All right, so I have shown, there's, I think just here recently, there's a couple articles on the ability of rocks to transmit an electrical charge. And here the ley lines of the planet that move through, move energy through the planet itself, And then there is the ability of the rocks, the telluritic current, like all of this, it conveys part of the power and part of more of the Earth's gravity through this electromagnetic field of the DC circuit of the Earth itself. Right. So AC is the alternating current, which is the results of lightning discharges, irradiance, or sun's, the sun's influence. These are the waves which vacillate and coalesce, combining into interference patterns, which we recognize as the Schumann resonances. All right. The ionosphere. This is the envelope that is. This is the en. Oh, I'm sorry. This envelope is essentially where the irradiance from our sun is turned from a plasma into visible light through having certain densities of the plasma discharge from the sun caught, again, through electron depositioning within the magnetic gravity of the Earth's magnetic field. This plasma type C of electron charge, and the charge is a plus or minus, current is a direction north to south. So a high electron charge, which is again plus or minus, going from plus, the high plus, high voltage, to the negative of the Earth ground, right, or a lesser plus of the ground. It is this envelope of electronic potential of approximately 200 to 250,000 volts. This layer of highly charged electrons envelopes and encircles the Earth planetary sphere as a boundary layer of high charge potential, which holds intact the mass of plasma, and it doesn't penetrate into the magnetosphere. The system is held intact and constant due to the number of something, due to spinning motion of the planet and various atmospheric pressures and the spatially dense environments of oxygen and nitrogen. All right, so that's a complicated way of explaining that. It's like the skin of an orange, I guess, if you will, or it's the skin of, like a fruit, and then there's this kind of air, but it's a thing. Our oxygen, nitrogen atmosphere it's a thing, and we breathe it, but it's these electric charges can hold on to it and can attach to it, and then that's how it becomes coherent into the waves of magnetics that circle around the globe. All right. So, let's see, how much further am I got? Oh my, this is a lot. All right, whatever. I'll just see where I am after I read a few more paragraphs. All right, thank you all for being here. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for being here, which is mostly Bradley and Susan at this point. All right, so the SR waveguide, the Schumann Resonance waveguide. The so-called waveguide of the Schumann Resonance is the insulating cavity of ionosphere to Earth. This cavity remains consistent over the course of time, yet there are variable fluctuations which happen periodically, such as diurnal, which is day or night variations, and occasions with coronal mass ejections. This cavity is generally consistent, yet fluctuations of this affect the Schumann resonance, through increasing the density of the harmonics, that's gravity. The cavity of the common air we breathe, which is nitrogen, oxygen, water vapor, argon, that layer below the thermosphere acts as a fine enough insulator of electric charge. Normally, the charge within the ionosphere stays intact as this envelope of potential charge. However, Under certain circumstances, conditions allow for the discharge of electrons to the planet's surface. Lightning charges are arcs, or a nonlinear hopping across spatial density through a path of least resistance. A straight line may not always be the quickest route through a spatial density. Good to remember. All right, so no comments or suggestions in the comments. Okay, we're going through this quickly. All right. So let me read this next rather lengthy paragraph. The insulating cavity of our lower atmosphere becomes breached due to the ground potential of the planet changing. Water vapor decreases impedance or resistance of the lower atmosphere. Lightning does not strike water often, as water is not a good grounding material. It conducts charge through the medium and not into the planet herself. Water conducts laterally, not longitudinally, such as amplitude. The insulating cavity becomes breached by quick, sharp bursts of electric discharge between ionospheric layer and the earth ground, there should be a period, theoretically, into the central electric convection current of the magmatic layer of the mantle. So that's the magma underneath. That the magma does help conduct an electric force with it. Okay. Or electric, magnetic, whatever. All right. So insulating cavity. All right. So the ionosphere is a DC conductive circuit of the plasma coming from solar radiance, filtered into the conductive envelope or convective envelope rather surrounding the planet's surface. The liquid magmatic layer within the Earth's core operates the DC conductive circuit. Upon the surface of the planet, there is water, which acts as an elemental conversion mechanism between DC and AC circuits. So water is a natural kind of rectifier. You are a large part rectifier. Okay, so rectifying is, again, going from AC to DC or DC to AC. Okay, technically. All right, so a lot of the Ascension phantom symptoms you get are from the fact that you're conducting, transducing the energy through you and affecting your crystals so that you're vibrating with these and you're grounding them into the circuit of the earth. Okay, so that's where a lot of these ascension rectification, what I'm calling ascension rectification symptoms, are coming from, is this conversion going from the AC circuit through you as a DC conductor into, grounding rod into the ground itself. All right, so so upon the surface of the planet there is water, which acts as an elemental conversion mechanism between DC and AC circuits. Schumann Resonances Schumann resonance is the resolution of DC charge, which is plus or minus discharge between ionosphere and the earth ground, creating these interference patterns from the magnetic current, which is north or south, behaving as a coherent wave of a certain frequency, a harmonic frequency, which is a density, which is, again, the gravity. Schumann resonance is the resolution of electron discharge between those two desperate DC circuits, so the one then the top and the one on the bottom, as above explained, which generally act independently of each other. Lightning is a DC charge conduction within an AC operating environment. Okay, so hopefully you got that. No one's saying they don't get it. All right. All right. So what is the most important point of understanding the difference between DC and AC circuit relative to Schumann resonances? All right, rectification. All right, why is this important? Rectification. One of the primary understandings is about the function of a rectifier. This is a mechanism that transduces one or the other, AC, DC, or the other way. The human body is a transducer of AC into DC of the earth-ground circuit. Much of the activation of the atmospheric charge around us is not intended for us to hold on to, as it results in multitudes of problems for our nervous system, concomitant with cognitive and mental functions. DC charge is the quick dispersion directed from high potential state to earth-ground anode. This electron discharge exists as a plasma due to the molecular depositioning as it moves through our nitrogen, oxygen, etc., insulating cavity of our atmosphere. In order to travel through what would ordinarily be a barrier, an exchange is made. Our induced plasma, which is the gaseous or amorphous formless state, exists through attraction or magnetic gravity. All right. Actually, no, it exists through attraction, molecular adhesion, and not through gravity. The Schumann resonances are held together through magnetic gravity. Sorry. It's induced by a column of Joule-heated electrons, which are conducted to the planet's surface. The principle, okay, are you with me here? All right. No one's telling me to slow down or to stop or shut up, okay? I'm going on. The principle of lowest or least resistance is easiest means of conducting high potential into its grounding home of the planet's DC circuit. A lightning strike is not a straight line, yet the crooks and jags are induced. They're indeed the linear resolution of a pathway of least resistance. The pathway is not forced, it is allowed through the exchange of charged plasmic photonic energies into coherent wave. Ready? No comments? This cohesive wave is created at first by the internal exchange or agreement between the molecules, which initially reacting to the incoming energies through becoming excited, then vibrate outwards laterally into the insulating cavity through these exchange of electron charges to fill in the holes, the positive holes, in the valences, meaning a vacancy at the atomic level was available to allow the exchange. O2, which is oxide, is used initially in the exchange as it's way high up prevalent in the upper atmosphere, and it creates a kind of chain reaction. All right. So once the entire voltage exchange is complete, there is the column of momentary vacuum created from the heat. The air rushes in, crashes into itself, thusly creating a second set of ripples, the primary fundamental of which is the Schumann is the Schumann Resonance Harmonics fundamental frequency of 8 hertz. That's a fundamental. The resonance frequency is 7.8. Okay. Are you with me, everyone? Okay. My moderator is smiling. All right, very wonderful. Understanding the interchange between DC and AC is imperative to understanding the relationship between amplitude and quality. All right. Light exists as both particle and wave. Particles may be contained within or as a plasma field, which is shapeless or formless, existing unified through their shared bonds of electrons. They exist within time or as time without a spatial or density construct anchoring them into place. These exist without space essentially. Time, as a universal construct, starts to dissolve within the constraints of these plasmic fields of, yes, amplitude, which is the height or electric DC content of a Schumann resonance spectrum. Oh, sorry. There we go. essentially, it is an amorphous field which travels in a straight line, takes the path of least resistance, moves with a velocity, and velocity is a speed or straight line measurement, which is kilometers per second here, I think. Lightning discharges happen within the span of a second. You get many lightning discharges within the course of a second. The base time scale of Hertz is a cycle per second. So the amplitude, once again, moves quicker than a cycle per second. It moves many times within a second. So it's a straight line. It's a vector, not a frequency. All right. A discharge or series of discharges happen within the span of a second. They're not recordable as a frequency, nor can they be ascribed a time derivative function such as a wave is given. Amplitude are the vertical upright spikes seen on the spectrogram. These upright spikes are not a measurement of a frequency. Again, these are a function of velocity. The amplitude is a function of velocity. Quality, on the other hand, is the magnetic flux or movement of the wave, indicating a proper AC circuit vector of the Schumann Resonances spectrum. These electromagnetic radio frequency waves encircle the globe, eventually bumping into themselves, creating these resonant frequency harmonic standing waves which stack up upon each other. These are recorded as the horizontal bands of the spectrogram. These are the longer lasting effects of DC charges. These are what you get as a result of the DC charges. All right. Okay, so I'm now at 3 hours 11 minutes. This is a great place to stop, Ryan. So this was the I'm advertising my Schumann Resonance channel there. All right, so I think this is good enough for tonight. This is 3 hours, probably be 3.5 hours by the time I'm done here. I'm going to thank you all for being here. Everyone, thank you, Bradley, thank you, Trish, Susan, and the people who are here. I forgot as well. I'm beat, absolutely beat. I get to go to bed. I'm likely going to do one of these tomorrow. I need to talk about the electromagnetic induction and the grounding material, and that's a kind of lengthy. That's a lengthy presentation, but it's, people want to know where to get it from. So this is what this place has. This is kind of a sales pitch for some of these websites, but I think this will be really, really good because I will give you a chance to, I will give you an introduction to different type of building materials that are reflective. All right. So on that cheery note, thank you all for being here. I very much appreciate your time, your effort, your energy. Much love to all of you. I appreciate everything. And I will see you tomorrow. But in the meantime, I think we're going to close as usual. Wait here. I need to find it first. As usual here. There we go. You should be able to hear that. Alright, so, on that cheery note, thank you all for being here. And I appreciate the love and support. And we will see you tomorrow. Right. Thanks. Bye. Namaste.
She's got color in her cheeks when she looks around at me. She's got wild eyes. She's a fairy child. And she put a little spell on me. She wanna dance in the sun. I'm a girl and I'm fine. Shot her with a water gun. Got me feeling like the one. She wanna dance in the sun. I'm a girl and I'm fine. Shot her with a water gun. Got me feeling like the one. She wanna dance in the sun. I'm a girl and I'm fun. Shot her with a water gun. Got me feeling like the one. She wanna dance in the sun. I'm a girl and I'm fun. Shot her with a water gun. Got me feeling like the one. She wanna dance in the sun. I'm a girl and I'm fun. Shot her with a water gun.